Okay, to begin with, general introduction. Who, what, why, blah, blah, and so forth of expatriation. Right? Just to give you some basics, and then also second, opportunities and also risks of expatriation. So first of all, what is an expat? I think we already talked about this in one of our earlier sessions. Remember, we had like 2 of your classmates sitting in the front, yeah, and they're different directions. Yeah, the typical standard expat would be, or first to begin with, in general, expat is a person who lives and works in a foreign country. Typically, you would also imagine it's on a temporary basis, so there's a limited term. And that's maybe a difference to migrants. Right? So we also have migrants, international migrants, immigrants, and so forth, who do not necessarily stay. Some of them also would like to stay for longer or maybe forever in a foreign country. Or that's also very often the intention of immigrants, to move, to relocate to a different country and stay there for good. Some of them eventually may move elsewhere. But the difference with expats is very often expats, they're on a mission, sent by the organization or on their own. And they have their own initiative, but typically for a limited term. Could be 3 years, 5 years, and so forth. We can distinguish between organizational or traditional or corporate expats. That would be the typical expats from one country, very often from a home country, let's say from Germany, from Siemens, from Volkswagen, being dispatched to Brazil for 3 to 5 years and then return. And we can also distinguish into long-term and short-term expats. Short-term expat assignments is typically anything that is less than 1 year. It could be 3 months, 6 months, up to 1 year. Very often these assignments are less than 6 months. Why? Because of tax reasons. Most countries have to pay tax, or people have to pay taxes if they live for more or work more than 6 months in one country, and then they have to pay taxes in that country. And if a company dispatches an expat for more than 6 months, then it becomes very complicated. And companies have also to manage all these taxes, or for individuals it's complicated. So typically these short-term assignments are less than 6 months. Could be also a series of multiple short-term assignments, 1 month, 3 months, and so forth. But still based at one company. Here we have also this distinction between organization and self-initiated expatriate. So the organization or corporate would be an expat sent by a company, by an employer. The example, Siemens or Volkswagen, they dispatch a German manager from Germany to Brazil and then return. We have nowadays many self-initiated expatriates. That means people are very global. Also here in this classroom, remember our first session, I asked who is from a different country, and there were quite a few students, exchange students, and also later on they find jobs on their own. They apply, or maybe also they have some international headhunt agencies that would identify, hire, and then place these people in different countries. So the typical ratio nowadays, if you think of this expat community, would be maybe 80, 70%, or maybe even more of expats are so-called self-initiated expatriates. So that companies are the main organizations are responsible for sending people around the globe. Used to be maybe in the past, more colonial style, but nowadays many people study abroad, live abroad, speak English, speak different foreign languages, and can easily find a job elsewhere. And then as we know, within the European Union, you can work anywhere. You can find a job without any difficulties. What we also have, maybe third country expats, meaning a nationality other than the home and host country of where the company is based and where it operates in. It could be a German manager working for a Swiss company in China, for instance. So neither home nor host country. That is not that common nowadays, but we talked about this case when we talked about the labor pool. Small economies, they rely more often on third country nationals or those companies that pursue these geocentric or regional-centric approaches. So that's just an overview of what different types of expats we have. The first part, the before, during, and after, mainly focus on corporate expats, because they also fulfill very important functions. and it's also a cost position, and there's an organizational motive behind. Different nationalities, so we have companies from Germany, UK, Japan, and US, and PCN would be the parent country national, so meaning in Japanese companies, we have mostly expats who are Japanese. So yesterday we had some friends over who visit us, and one of these guys was working for a Japanese company in Germany, and also apparently in his company, most of the expats are all Japanese. Not many expats from other countries. Germany also still has many German expats. So if you would like to become an expat, you're German, then joining a German company might be a good option. Later on, maybe a few years down, you might have the opportunity. If you're neither German nor Japanese, but you still would like to become an expat, then maybe British companies might be a good chance because they also dispatch many third country nationals. Meaning as a German working for a British company, you might also have the opportunity to work in another country later on, likewise in the US company. Particularly if you join an American company in Europe, that has more this regional approach, European talent programs, and so forth, where they develop talent inside the European region, regardless of nationality, if provided it's a European nationality. And then we also have expatriates, so these are the expats who are typically host country nationals who are being dispatched to the headquarters. These expat assignments are typically shorter, 3 months or less than 1 year. Very often there's a purpose, these people are being trained for something, learn some skills or internalize values, establish some networks, and then they return to the subsidiary very often, and then maybe also assume higher management positions. Or it can also be more strategically. Probably many of you know the company Samsung. Maybe some of you even have Samsung computers, cell phones, and so forth. Samsung has also very long-term global talent development programs. So they have quite some history. They go to these famous MBA schools, Harvard, Stanford, INSEAD, and so forth. And then they try to attract then these top students who are maybe in their 30s or so, who have already 5 years work experience, get an MBA from a world-renowned university, and then Samsung makes them an attractive offer. Join us in Korea, in Seoul, for 2 years. And then after 2 years, you know the Samsung way, you know many people, then you go back to your home country, and maybe you become a top manager or senior manager in the foreign subsidiary in the countries outside Korea. All right, so here's just an overview of different nationalities. There's also quite substantial country variation depending on the nationality or country of origin of the company. Some general questions. Why do multinational corporations use expats? Here, these are some of the leading reasons. First of all, management knowledge transfer. We talked already quite a bit about this aspect as an important factor in human resource management. For companies, really to remain competitive, to sustain competitive advantage, it's all about knowledge. And to transfer knowledge that is being developed in the headquarters and R&D centers, to transfer it, sometimes it's patented, it's codified, yes, but in addition, very often it's related to processes, the way how to do things. You send people. People, and also if it's even a machine or new product, someone needs to teach how to use it. So you transfer expats from one country to the other. So very often knowledge resides in people, in the heads and the minds of people. So the way then to transfer it would be by sending these people, these knowledgeable people, these knowledge actors abroad, and then to apply, and then maybe also hopefully to teach that knowledge, share that knowledge with others. Then very often still, for many companies, control and coordination is important. It's a multinational corporation. They have different subsidiaries, different supplies, very integrated company. And then to balance and coordinate all these processes across countries and implement also best practices in foreign countries, you need expats. Control and coordinate. Command and conquer, some people say. So exercising coordination and control purpose is very important, particularly if companies have a global strategy. And then control and coordination would be important, as is the case in Japanese companies. Then the next point, global talent development. So I think we talked about some of the key functions of HR, or international human resource management, related to global strategy. Knowledge management is one aspect. The other one is global talent development. And that's also what many companies do. Multinational corporations, they operate in many countries to develop top leaders of the future. These people need to gain international experience. We talked about training and development last class. It's experience-based learning, and that you can achieve by working in a foreign country, maybe at multiple times, early, later on, and so forth. And another factor, very simple, because you don't have the talent in a given market, so you need to find it, and if you can't find the local market, then you can simply relocate talent from one country to the next country. Okay, that's the overview. Here again, some other introductions still here for our lecture, thinking of expatriation in terms of different phases or different stages. Because many people only think about, international assignment, being expat, working abroad. Yeah, that's very important. Yeah, but what is before and after is also likewise extremely important to facilitate successful socialization, integration in a foreign country, in the foreign subsidiary, is to prepare, select, and then also prepare the expats. That lays the foundation for a successful work assignment, and then also returning, repatriation. Working for a couple of years, 3 to 5 years in a foreign country, returning, and then hopefully applying also the knowledge these expats learned or applied back in the headquarters. What we call reverse knowledge transfer. And to enable that also means a very smooth transition from one phase to the next one. So expats have very important functions, and here, this is the cost perspective, they're very expensive. So here are some numbers. Just imagine the typical, maybe average annual salary of a middle manager, maybe you, in a few years, 2 years, 5 years, 8 years later on, you might earn maybe give or take 80,000 US dollar or euro. Nowadays, not much difference. Then, if you would send the same manager on an expat assignment, this cost will grow to maybe 300,000 multiple times. It can go up times 4, maybe even more than that. Or you would send even a senior manager, the cost would be maybe 1 million US dollar. We'll talk about these numbers also when we talk about compensation. So expat assignments could be very lucrative for expats because you receive all kinds of benefits, but also from a corporate perspective, it's very expensive. And that's the risk. You make an investment. Some people say return on investment. You pay so much money, you want something out. And the purposes are these here. These are the purpose. That's what organization expects. And the company makes a very substantial investment into a person, into an expat. And in larger numbers, of course, that's also HR strategy. Then, even though it's very expensive, it's important for organizations, quite a few expats do not want to accept such an offer. Some of the key reasons are listed here. Number one, family. Family concerns. I have to say it's a survey. It's mostly conducted in Western countries, meaning US and Western Europe. If you would do the same survey, let's say in Asia, this would not be on top. This would be much lower. There's a different understanding. So let's look into now during factor and after. What are some of the risks? We talked about before. It's about willingness and opportunity whether to go. And now on the assignment, there's also all kinds of risk or potential negative consequences if the assignment or the expat doesn't perform well. And some of the factors here could be related to indirect costs, related to performance of the expat. Very simple, maybe the expat doesn't do very well, so he performs poorly. He or she can't do their job very well, problems with here and there, and then maybe not able to achieve his or her objectives. And maybe also if it's a senior level management position, this can also have consequence on the performance of the whole operation in a foreign country. That can lead then to a loss of market share, and in particular also if expat has problems in building relationships and maintaining relationships inside, but also outside the organization. So very often if you're an expat in a foreign country, you also deal with suppliers and buyers, and if you're not able really to do well, that can seriously damage all these kind of relationships. Another factor also, this is more for the expat, but it also has ramifications for the organization, is the expat leaves early. So the idea is the expat goes abroad for 5 years, but then already after 2 years or 1 year, there's so big troubles that maybe the expat has to return early. And that's very often related also here to these problems. And then the company again, they also have to find an alternative. Because the position becomes vacant and the expat returns, perform very poorly, also the career of that person is at risk. So meaning the idea was it's a very big investment. The company pays millions to send the expat over, but poor performance plus early return, and then also the career and the whole objective collapses. That would be a very disappointing assignment then from all perspective. I will talk about adjustment difficulties later on. And then again, after the assignment, even the expat returns, but then the expat very often has worked in very elevated positions. So that's also very often the case. The expat is a middle manager in the headquarters, in the foreign subsidiary, senior manager. Lots of responsibilities, comes back, and then nothing happens, maybe a job that is not really pleasant. And that can then really lead to dissatisfaction, and very often then also that expats or repats later on, they leave the employer. This is a very prominent problem in the US and also I think in India and some other countries where they have very flexible labor markets, meaning these people, anyway, the loyalty to the company is not that big and they have many opportunities elsewhere. And then they take the opportunities. In Germany, that the repats leave the company is not such a big problem because they're very often relatively well tied in the organization, but they may not be satisfied and also do not perform very highly.